So the next thing around spiritual amnesia is the brain injury. So now I'm going to get really sciencey. Brain injury here that comes from this spiritual amnesia, because again, amnesia is partial or total loss of memory, usually resulting from shock. Okay, we talked about the psychological disturbance. Now we're going to talk about the brain injury, and then we're going to talk about the illness. The brain injury and the illness are very linked together. Brain injury, all of these psychological disturbances, what do they cause? Trauma. They're traumatic experiences. So the trauma of this alters the structure and the function of your brain. So thus it causes an injury to your brain, and it alters neural pathways, and it disrupts the chemical balances that and processing information of your brain's functioning because of the trauma of this psychological disturbance. And so there's three main parts of the brain that are affected. And the first one is the amygdala. And the amygdala is the alarm system of the brain. It detects threats and triggers like fear responses. And what happens when it becomes overactive, it causes this exaggerated fear and emotional reactivity. So fear and anxiety, I mean, I think you can kind of see, like, they understand how some of the psychological disturbances literally cause fear and anxiety, and it's so consistent over time. So the amygdala becomes overactive. It impacts your hippocampus, and the hippocampus is part of the brain that's responsible for memory processing, and it helps in distinguishing between past and present experiences. And I think that's a huge one. What happens with trauma is that part of the brain, the hippocampus actually shrinks. So trauma shrinks this part of the brain, thus impairing your ability to distinguish between safe and dangerous situations. And this is the part of the brain you don't want to shrink, because you want it to be able to distinguish between past and present experiences. Because if it's getting smaller, it doesn't have the capacity to remember be able to see, like, oh, this happened, but right now this is not true either. And it impairs that ability to distinguish between safe and dangerous situations. And that part of the brain shrinks. And the final part of the brain here is the prefrontal cortex. And this is the part of the brain that's about rational thinking. It's responsible for impulse control. It helps in regulating emotional responses. So trauma, right? Because it causes, like, one of the amnesiacs, one of the ways that spiritual amnesia happens is brain injury, is through injuring the brain. This trauma that comes from the psychological disturbances that happen, that are being pushed for whatever reason. I know the reason, she knows the reason, but I don't want Zoom to kick me off right here, right now.